Hi, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Okay, thanks for joining us. We're going to create 2 cards today. I'm going to start. In my video, we're going to create this card with the August, my monthly hero kit, and then Sika will do hers. All right, let me switch over here to my cameras. All right, there we go. I hope everybody can hear me. Whew. So this is the card we're going to create today, kind of taking a different approach where we're not focusing on all the stencils. We'll be using them. If you're not familiar with the kit, it was a really awesome like layering stencil set. I hope you guys can hear me. All right. It's always weird when I'm like, I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. Okay, great. Comments are coming in. Check real quick. But it was a really awesome layering stencil set, and I am going to focus more on the cactus or the cacti. Okay, great. I just want to make confirmation you can hear me. Okay, great. So that's what I'm focusing on. Not so much the whole background scene, which is awesome. I just wanted to show you kind of a different way to use those layering stencils. And we're going to still create a scene, but we're not going to be creating the really awesome desert scene that's you make when you use the layering stencils. All right, so yes, we're sharing that all the supplies are listed for today's card it's at the blog as well as the instructions. And we're going to start today's card with actually creating these cacti themselves. And I'm going to grab some scrap cardstock here. This will work. Some white cardstock. And let's start with the swirls. So I'm going to start with the base layer for the swirls, which is, I'm calling the base layer the more open area. This is the detail layer. This is the base layer. So we're going to start with the base layer here. Just place them down. And for the swirls, we're going to do 2 combos where we're going to start with our light combo, which is key lime fizz and moss. So now place that down. Now key lime fizz is going to be the base. And I'm just going to hold my stencil in place. Oh, that's so awesome. Melissa's saying she won a card from, that's what we're giving away today. Today's giveaway is a card from Sika and a card from myself. These cards we're creating today. And we will pick a winner and share it at the end of the live. And one winner will be from YouTube and one winner will be from Facebook. So I'm just going to do the swirls right now. I might get some color in the agave or the prickly pear, but I'm not worried about this. This is just a scrap paper. I just want to make sure I get the key lime down for these 2 swirls. This could also be done on, like, you die cut the cacti first and then ink blend over them, but they can kind of move on you when they're just little die cuts, so this I think is a little bit easier. All right, now I'm going to grab my moss here. And this is something I love to do with stencils, is add a second color to kind of give it a little bit more depth. I'm going to load up my blending brush here with moss.
And Shannon,
yes.
Andrea's asking, is the stencil reversed?
It's not I don't think, well, gosh, you know what? I should have checked. It might be reversed. Hopefully it's not. Oh, no, I don't think it is. I got it the right way right now. I did notice that. Let me make sure. I'm going to grab the die to see. And it is reversed. Oh, no, I did do it reversed. Let me flip it over. I should have checked the writing first. I could use this, but it's easier, I think, to do the reversed image if you do die cuts first. So let me fix my mistake real quick. Wow, keen eyes. I was just gonna go along and have the whole thing done. All right, let me flick it over, and there we can see the numbers and letters are the right way. And I'll do that again real quick. And I switch back over my brushes. Yes, I did have it reversed. So if you're probably going, why is my swirl over here on the right side, or on the left? Mine's on the left side and hers is on the right side. Yep, I did it wrong. I had it reversed. All right, and now back to that moss. So I've caught up to where I was. Grab a little of the moss and just color the end. This is subtle, but I like how it's going to add a little bit of darker color and just, I think, makes the cactus look a little bit more dimensional. I'll often sneak this in, this little bit of additional color. We're going to use this color, though, this moss, again, for our detail layer. But we're going to be really heavy-handed, so we have lots of contrast. Okay, so we got those two swirl done. Let's grab the detail layer, place it down, and line it up. They're pretty easy to line up, I think. There we go. I'm just going to hold it. You could tape it in place. I'm just going to hold my stencil down. And this time we're just going to use the moss. Yeah, the kits are awesome. This one was one of my all-time favorites. I love the way this whole scene looks when it's all done. I loved this kit. And being an Arizona girl, this one, I felt like this one was made for me. All right. And there we go. There's our light green cacti. Now we're going to do a slightly darker green. Okay, so I'm going to quickly clean my stencils. I'm just going to place down a towel and grab my damp chamois and just kind of quickly wipe off that ink. There we go. And I can get these totally clean with the ultra clean, but I won't bother with that until like I'm completely done using them. I don't want to have to be using that back and forth. You know, they're just going to get a little bit dirty, but that will totally clean them later. All right, we're going to use this, use them the same side, the right side. I'm not going to flip them. Find a little clean spot on my cardstock. Start with that base layer again. So we're just kind of repeating this process, but now we're doing two new colors. All right, so I'm going to start with green apple. And I'm using a combination of reactive inks and core inks. That's what I did for the first two. This is the reactive ink. This is the core ink. This is mostly just because I do prefer the reactive inks for blending, but I needed some darker shades, and these core inks blend beautifully too, especially in the combination with the reactive ink. They really work well together. I cleaned my Misty with the cleaner, and scrubbing, it cleaned up wonderfully. It does. It cleans up beautifully. That's what I use to clean my Misty too. All right, starting with the green apple. Let's try to hold this down. And again, just focusing on the swirl. Oh. Yes, I feel like this one was made for us Arizonans. I agree, Deborah. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the moss, just do a little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to grab one of my little brushes for this, just because I kind of already dedicated this one to a dark green. Look at how beautiful. It adds that depth to that swirl. I love doing this. And just a little bit, just a tiny bit is all we need. Oops, it looks like I'm frozen. Okay, good, I came back. Now we're ready for the detail layer. Line that up. And now we're just gonna be really heavy-handed with that pine. I'm noticing it skipping too. I'm not sure why that is. Hopefully it gets itself righted. I might have to go tell my girls to, if they're on the internet, to get off. I don't know if that helps, but that's what I try to do sometimes. Yeah, I'm freezing on my end too, so let me go see if I can fix that real quick. Oops, I'm going to go a little bit more heavy-handed with this. Gotta line it back up. Let me go talk to my daughters real quick. Tell them to not, I don't know if that helps at all, but I'm going to try. All right, so that's done. Let me quickly go tell my daughters. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that fixes it. I told them to get off the internet, so hopefully that fixes it. Okay, so those swirls are done. I think just so I don't somehow accidentally mess them up when I ink blend my other cacti, I'm going to go ahead and just die cut them out now. That's just to be safe. So let me grab the matching dies. Yeah, it's like a new problem I'm noticing. I haven't had it always happen, but it's something new. So I'm slightly suspicious of my internet provider. That's what I'm slightly suspicious of, them capping us off, but because we haven't had this problem. I've been doing lives for a while. But hopefully that fixes it. Okay, great. So Roberta says it helps too. Okay, so yeah, we used to be able to do it. My girls used to be able, but they don't need to be on the internet right now. They can do other things. They're fine. All right, so let's die cut those out. Whoops. And then we'll do the other two, and I'm hoping, oh, my older router, maybe I'm gonna talk to my husband, see. He's the tech guy at our house, not me. And he would love to excuse to get a newer router. So we'll see. I'll ask him. All right, so those two are done. Let's do our lighter two. And then we'll have room. Hopefully we'll have some room left over on here to, I'm sure we will. I'm going to squeeze it. I'm going to make sure we can get the other cacti cut out of this cardstock as well. Get that lined up. The internet company gives you routers for free? What? I know nothing. Oh, they should. Well, yes, I agree. All right. Okay, so those two are cut out. Now let's move on to some of our other cacti. Now that I got my saguaros cut out and I don't have to worry about somehow accidentally ink blending a purple color or my blue colors for my agave. And I am quickly going to clean my stencils because I got a lot of green left on them. I don't want that to transfer to where my agave will get mixed in with my agave colors. So then I won't have beautiful kind of blue color. All right, let's push those aside. All right, let's do the agave. So find a little clean spot. Again, starting with the base so they're more open. Oops. Looks like we switched over. I hope everything's okay. Oh, nope. We're not seeing. Okay, we're switching it around. Can I control that? There we go. Okay, I controlled it. All right, there we go. All right, for the agave, we're going to start with Pool Party. For the base, which is a light, I love this color, kind of like a, well, I guess a pool color, kind of aqua. And just quickly ink blend those guys. I think I just do two. Yep, I just do two. The small one and the large one. Again, I'm going to grab my blue, I'm going to grab my darker shade and we'll add a little shadow underneath. And we're going to use blue raspberry. Yeah, this one's a beautiful color. And blue raspberry is a beautiful color. People don't give this one, I think, enough praise. It's a really pretty color. Just gonna add a little bit to the bottom. You could totally skip this step, but I really like that little gradation. I don't even think I included this in the instructions, but I love to do this. Just gives that little bit of an ombre look, subtle, adds more depth. All right, now for that detail layer. Gonna line this up. And with that blue raspberry, ink blend those detail lines in the agave. Be really heavy-handed with this so you get a lot of contrast. I'm a very heavy-handed ink blender. All right. Those are cute agaves. I love them. They're adorable. Agaves are one of my favorite desert plants. I'm not sure if they're considered a cactus or a succulent. I think they must be, or they're their own thing. Now I feel like a bad Arizonian because I don't know. All right, I'm going to line these up and just go ahead and die cut them out. Ocotillos? They're part of the Ocotillo family? Is that like a family? Like succulents, kind of? All right, die cut this out. Yeah, this is a good way. I think I agree. This is a good use of the, showing you kind of how to get more out of this kit by using it a different way. We're focusing, obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning, we're really focusing on the cacti. I froze again. Tried. Okay, I'll wait for it to unfreeze and then we'll get back. Unfreeze and freeze. We're really frozen. It's really frozen this time. Can do. Okay, we're kind of getting there. You can still hear me? Okay. Well, I'm trying to see if I can if there's some way I can disconnect other things. All right, let's see. Are we still okay? Still being kind of really frozen. At least very slow. All right, that's disconnected. I try one more thing and then I'll hopefully fix it. Okay. Oh, we're still slow. Come back, come back. I turned everything off. I hope that fixed it. I don't know. Discuss the weather. Just give it a minute here, maybe. I'm going to do this real quick for you. Last one is the prickly pear. I'm hoping it'll get fixed here in a minute. I don't know. I turned everything's not connected anymore. Oh man, it's never been this bad. I do not understand. Let's see. All right. I feel like we're getting a little bit better. I'm going to do the prickly pear now. I actually flipped my paper over for a clear spot. Okay, it's getting better. Oh my gosh, it's getting better. Oh. What a relief. Okay, so we're going to now ink blend with Grape Slush. Oh my gosh. Hooray, hooray. This time we're going to do something a little different. Oh, and now it's frozen again. We're going to ink blend with Grape Slush and Taffy. Do a little bit of Grape Slush. And then I'm going to grab Taffy. So I'm cute to try to keep these lids on screen so you can kind of see. Here's the Taffy. And we're going to do kind of a combo because prickly pears, the purple ones kind of have a gradation. They're not just one color. Do a little bit of the pink at the top. A little bit of this Taffy at the top. I just love the way it looks two-toned like that. All right, so that's our base for the prickly pear. And I did the prickly pear backwards. Well, geez Louise. Maybe I'll get through a finished card. I don't know. I ought to stop making mistakes and have the internet work would be great. Oh my goodness. All right, let's flip it over and try again. That was just a practice run. Now we're going to do the real thing. Back to the Grape Slush. I do like to have a little gradation where it's a little darker at the bottom. Again, kind of creating that shape. Now a little bit of that Taffy. All right, so now we're ready for the detail layer. Woohoo! And that was the last cacti, so we are almost done with them. Line that up. Ink blending with that Grape Slush again, so same two combos. I'm just glad the video is working again too. It doesn't look, it's definitely not as choppy, so that's good. And we're done. Woohoo! Look how cute he looks. Oh my gosh, I love this little prickly pear guy. He's adorable with his little bit of pink. Love him. Dee, you're here. How are you, Dee? Hopefully Dee will bring in the positive vibes and we have no more internet problems on my end. I'm the one causing all the problems. All right, I'm gonna die cut this out. And then we'll oh, and of course, right away we wham. So much for that. Oh, I think I had it fixed. I see Deb is again. I don't understand. It's not a common problem. I don't normally have this problem. I have to look into what's going on. All right, I'm gonna get all my cacti here so you can see them all. No worries, Sika, I understand. All right. So we're now ready to kind of build the scene. Yep, those are our little cacti. I'm going to grab a rectangle die. This is, I forgot the dimensions, 3 by, I think it's 4 1/4. So this is 3 by 4 1/4. Oh, please don't be frozen anymore. Just gonna wait a minute. And I'm gonna die cut this out of white cardstock and what else? Some sand cardstock. So white and sand. The sand one is smaller than the white, and that's okay. I don't need much of the sand. I just need a little bit for our bottom of the scene. So I'm actually going to cut it through. Oh, now it's working again. I'm going to cut it through like this. And then I will cut the whole, I need the whole panel for, or out of the white cardstock. So let's die cut these real quick. Now the sand. All right, I got my sand and my craft cut out. Or my sand and my white cut out. Dimensions are, I'll write it down, but they're 3 by 4 1/4. They are on the instructions. So the instructions that are on the blog, they're there. I'm gonna write it on screen so you can see. 3 inches by 4 1/4. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, it doesn't help. Oh, thank you. Here, Art's got it. Thank you. But the smaller, the craft one or the sand one doesn't have to be 4 1/4 long. It just needs to be 3 inches wide. And about, this is a little bit less than, this is like 2.5 inches. So the sand one can be smaller. All right, let's go ahead and rip the sand one to create kind of, let me have on screen the mountain so you can see. So the mountain goes, it's kind of shorter on the left side and gets higher on the right side. So that's kind of how you're going to rip your paper. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get that kind of angle. So I'm just going to start ripping, and there's our mountain. It's a beautiful torn edge. Really easy to do. Looks awesome, I think. I love this technique. Now that we've torn it, we're going to do a little bit of ink blending on the bottom. I have a brown picked out. It's sand, so kind of tone on tone, very light. And I'm just going to ink blend on the very bottom edge, a little gradation, very subtle. All right, and that's it for our kind of mountain. I'm gonna put that aside with our cacti. Now we got to move on to the sunset. Let's pull out all my colors I'm using. for that. Get those on screen so you can follow on. We're going to use Grape, Slush, Taffy, Lemon Drop, and Pool Party. We're actually going to start with Pool Party. Let me make some room here. Grab all my blending brushes. I think they got kind of tossed aside. Let's see. Oh, there's my pink. Everything kind of, oh, there we go. Got a little disorganized. All right, now we're back in shape. I'm going to start with the Pool Party. I need a bigger brush. And the Pool Party is going to be actually at the bottom. And I always like to kind of angle my paper because I like to go on the side. So keep it kind of light. You can have it a little bit darker on the edge. We want to fade on a little gradation because we're going to move into the yellow here. Oops. I got a little heavy-handed, but that's all right. That'll be covered mostly by the mountain anyways. All right, and I'm going to stop there. Let's see, you can kind of grab your mountain too and see. I want to see a tiny bit of blue. That's what I want to see. It's a tiny bit of blue here, just a bit. And I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to move on to Lemon Drop. Now I'm going to come in from the top down now, so I'm going to turn my paper around. It's just, this is easier for me. And I'm going to actually ink blend from here down because I want it to be darker yellow here and lighter as it gets towards the blue. And this again is Lemon Drop. I probably should have some scrap paper here to tap off the excess ink on. Let's see if I can grab some. Here we go, we'll use this. And we'll start blending this Lemon Drop down to meet that Pool Party. All right, I'm going to stop there. Now we're going to move on to Taffy. Again, keeping it angled this way because I'm, again, working kind of top down. Probably should have tapped off on a sheet as a scrap, but that's okay. We can work it out. We'll blend it out. I definitely want to make sure I overlap some of this taffy with the yellow because that's how we're going to get our orange color. I mean, you could just use orange ink, but it's going to be like a narrow area, and you can get orange just simply by overlapping these two colors, the yellow, which is Lemon Drop, and the pink, which is Taffy. And I'm going to grab my yellow and just add a tiny bit more, but I'm liking, you can totally see the orange that we're getting just by blending those two colors together. Ah. All right, and now we're going to finish it up with Grape Slush. Tap off some of the excess over here in my scrap. Come in from the top. And I think I'm going to just do a little bit more taffy to finish it off. A lot of purple fans. Hero Community's got a lot of purple fans, and I think that's Livy's doing. But I don't dislike purple. I'm all right with that. It definitely completes the sunset, I think. All right, we're going to call that done. All right, now we have some details to add to the sky, which you see here. And that's where I am going to grab the stencil. Let me find out this. It's this one here. And you can use either way. You could use it, I think I'm going to use it this way, back flipped over. So there's the letters, you can read them. So if I flip it over, and then I'm going to place it like here. I want the sun spot here, it's masked for the sun, to be over to the right side a little bit. I don't want it centered. I just think the composition is a little better if it's over here on the right side. And I am going to kind of tape off, just because I'm worried I'm not going to be careful. I won't be as careful as I need to. I'm going to kind of tape off this portion of the mountains or the buttes. Let's see. I'm going to grab one more piece of tape too. Is there any other colors besides purple? All right. Just take that down too, just to be safe. I probably can avoid this one area here, but just to be safe. All right, I'm going to hold it in place, and I'm going to ink blend pretty heavy-handedly up here with this grape slush. I need to do it heavy-handed so I get that contrast, because I was not, I ink blended heavy-handed to begin with, so I've got to go really hard with lots of ink, I should say, not hard, but just really load up with ink, keep going back and forth between the stencil and the ink pad, so you're always reloading your blending brush with more ink, and that's should be pretty good. Then I want to do a tiny bit of taffy. Grab that for that little area here, because that little bit of cloud is kind of in our pink area. Again, being very heavy-handed. All right, that's it. So let's take our stencil off. There's some nice here too. Ah. Comes and goes. Mashing potatoes by hand. Oh wow. I'm not sure how I got a heavy-handed touch. I think it's because I'm impatient. All right, so that's our sky. It's still kind of having a hard time loading and getting focused. There we go. So that's our sky. You can reposition this again and do a little bit more if you wanted to. If you wanted to add a little more clouds here, you could definitely do that. If I wanted to add some pink here, I could. And that just adds a little bit more. Really easy. But we have to make our sun. Now for our sun, we're going to actually grab a circle die and die cut it out of yellow cardstock. I'm using Canary. So I'm using Hero Arts Canary cardstock, which is a nice, beautiful light yellow. And I'm just going to die cut this circle out of this yellow cardstock real quick. Push that aside. Have enough room here. Cut it there. All right. There's our start of our sun, but we can't leave it just this yellow of the cardstock, of course. Oops. We've got to add a little bit of color to this too. So it's going to fit nicely in that little opening that we left. That basically that the stencil masked off. But we're going to add a little bit of color to the bottom of this so it has more of a shape to it, more of a dimensional shape. And now we're going to grab a new color, creamsicle. Move this down. Now my kitty's going to be noisy. So I'm going to grab or tap off on this excess here, the scrap. Load up and kind of tap off. We're just going to ink blend the bottom with this orange, just a little bit. Trying to keep it light. And that's all. Maybe a tiny bit more. This kitty, I swear, at one point of the day, it's not always the same time, but it's only one time during the day, she'll decide she needs to meow a lot. All right, and there's our sun. We're basically ready to put this all together. We do have a sentiment we need to stamp, but let's put our scene together. We can kind of do that right now. And everything's working, so let's do it while it works. Does she talk like one part of the day? Because my kitty doesn't talk normally. It's like, I notice it's more in the afternoon, but I can't say it's the same time in the afternoon, but she'll just start meowing really loud. Okay, I'm going to glue my sun down first. Then we're going to glue down our cacti, our one large saguaro, the darker green one, and then the lighter green, smaller saguaro. He's going to go kind of over here in the corner. They're going to overlap, something like that. I do want to make sure that the end of this cactus is covered by my mountain, which it totally is. I'm going to actually pull this up a little bit more. And if you're not liking, you can always rip more off. Just like that. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to glue those guys down. Oh no, land on your hot foil plate. Ah. These in place. Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of blue to show. If you want more of your blue to show, you can kind of slide it down a little bit. I just wanted a tiny bit. It is pretty though. Just wanted you to kind of see it. Kind of covering it with my cacti. There we go. You can see a tiny bit there. All right. Now we're going to move on to putting one more cacti in the back here. He's the little darker green guy. He's going to go back there. keep checking, seeing where he's gonna fall. I want him to be about there. That's great. And now I'm gonna grab my foam adhesive. I gotta figure out where I put it. Always, that's the thing that always moves around on me. Okay, and we're gonna add some foam adhesive to the backside of our sand. Add a little dimension. Oh, my girls are being noisy now. All right, remove my backing, stick that down. I gotta stand up to do this. I don't know about you guys. I can never get anything straight if I'm seated. I gotta stand up and stick this down. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can hear my daughter, but I can, and she's driving me nuts. She's just repeating the same thing over and over again. Why do kids do that? All right, so that's stuck down. It's looking so good. It looks like a little desert scene. I love that torn effect. This torn paper look, obviously we're using it here for our mountain, but it works also beautiful for snow. So just keep that in your little toolbox of techniques. You rip a piece of white paper and make your scene. It looks beautiful for snow. All right, we're gonna finish up here with our other cacti. These I'm just gonna glue down. I'm not going to use any foam adhesive. If you want to support him because he's hanging off the mountain, you could add a little bit of foam adhesive to the backside. That wouldn't be maybe a bad idea to do. Maybe a little strip. Stick like here. Perfect. And then let's do our prickly pear. So cute. One of our agave. Do the larger one, kind of making a little cluster here where our sentiment's going to go. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. And then our last little agave I'm going to put over here to the side, I think. Because my mountain is not exactly the same because you can't really rip a paper exactly the same twice. Okay, so now we need to do our stamp sentiment. So we are on home stretch here. We got our whole little scene. I love it. Let's stamp and heat emboss our sentiments. I'm gonna grab my Misty. I will for a warning, my Misty is very dirty right now. Did not clean it. Grab some pitch black cardstock, of course. And the awesome sentiment set. I love the sentiment set that came with this kit. I love linear sentiments. I think they're the easiest to work with, and I think they look the best, in my opinion. Oh no, now your cat's blocking your view. And I'm doing, let's see, really any of these would work. I'm going to do the Be Wild and Free because that's what I did on the original card. Yeah, it's a very well-loved Misty for reals. For reals, for reals. This poor thing gets very much abused. Used and abused. I'm going to stamp it in the upper part of the scrap. And grab the embossing watermark ink. Fold this over and stamp it. Probably going to do it one more time for good measure, just to make sure I've got enough of that ink down. You know, Melissa, it took me a long time to burn my cardstock too when I heat embossed. I wasn't something I did in the very beginning. It was something very much later in my card making journey where I finally actually burned a piece of cardstock when I was heat embossing. I think that's like a beginner trope, but I didn't do that at the beginning. It took me later to do that. Probably because when I was more confident, you know, and little overconfident in what I was doing, I burned my cardstock. Okay, I'm going to heat set this real quick. So I'm going to turn my heat gun on, so it's going to be a little noisy. Oh, what container? Is it this container? This is white embossing powder, detail white embossing powder. This container is from IKEA, I think. So just a Tupperware container that I store my embossing powder in because it's easier for me to just kind of dip my my cardstock into the embossing powder versus pouring it over with a kind of a coffee liner underneath. I hope that answered your question. Okay, great. Now you could use a paper trimmer to trim this. I'm going to use a magnetic mat with a magnetic ruler. This is how I like to trim my sentiments. I feel like I'm more accurate on the space above and below the sentiments this way versus the paper trimmer. I have a harder time with the paper trimmer. This is from We Are Memory Keepers. I know a lot of people ask about this, so I'm just jumping the gun and telling you beforehand. We Are Memory Keepers, and they call this a tool kit. That's what they call it. It comes with the craft knife too, and some other tools, but you get the ruler, this little self-healing mat, which I think I need to get a new one. Yeah, I probably look at the Gladware keeper containers because I'm not sure if the IKEA even has those anymore. You know, I bought them years ago. It's a good tip. Cut the other side. There we go. Do you I'm assuming, I'm just make sure you use an anti-static bag. Are you using this? One of these? They come in different forms, but are you using some anti-static powder? Either a pouch or the brush kind. And if I have stray embossing powder on black cardstock, I will clean it up a little bit. Like I have a little bit here. But when it's close to the letter, sometimes I won't even bother brushing it away or, you know, cleaning it off with my brush with the, you know, a dry paintbrush. That's how I'd clean off any stray embossing powder. But sometimes I'll kind of cheat and I'll just take a black marker and color over some of those little, you know, flyaways or little static clean little areas of white heat emboss. All right, I'm going to trim this down with my scissors. There we go. So we have our little sentiment ready to go. And I'm going to grab my card base because we're ready to put this all together. So just a little bit over. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. I really reached to get my card base. All right, let's start by sticking our panel down. I'm going to use my liquid glue. Here it is. Where did it go? Oh, if you don't have an anti-static bag, Will a dryer sheet work? I've never tried that. I don't know. So I'm not going to say it will because I've never tried it. I would worry it wouldn't, but I really don't know. I'm going to turn this over and use, it doesn't matter. Both sides are about the same. Stick this down. Thank goodness for liquid glue. Gives me a little wiggle room to get it centered and straight, which I think I did. And now we're going to finish with our sentiment. I'm going to place it here. I want it to be a little bit off on the side and kind of cover up the bottoms of, even though I think this looks great, but I'm just going to cover up the bottoms of the little like cacti arrangement we have here, just to, I think it makes it look neater overall. I am going to use foam adhesive again, so I'm going to grab my roll here. So Deb, the instructions, so when you go to the blog, and then you'll see like all the supplies listed in the, so you find the blog post, which I think is the front blog post, the most recent blog post. And then you'll see all of our supplies used for my card and Sika's card. And then you'll see like a link to kind of click, that you have to click to go see the instructions. So that's how you find them. And then and the link has also been shared in this live as well. Sometimes it's not static, but rather moisture. Yeah. Okay. So see, I'm in Arizona, so I don't have that moisture problem. I've not experienced that. I know a lot of people talk about having things stick, and it's just something I don't experience here. I've definitely had like, static stick to an area where I've touched with my fingers, or even like I somehow some adhesive got on it and the embossing powder stuck there in that case. But I haven't had the moisture, but I wouldn't, it has to, like Sika says, the moisture has to be a factor sometimes too. But that's what the anti-static powder is supposed to do, is help you with moisture, oils from your hands, or even maybe adhesive. All right, and I stuck that down, and that completes the card. Really colorful. Didn't, took a different way of using the stencils where we focused on the cacti versus the whole scene, and I love it. Whew. And we were able to, I appreciate everybody's patience with the internet and being slow. I know it was choppy and a little bit brutal, but I really appreciate you guys being patient while we got our card done. But we got there. Yay! All right, now it's on to Sika. I think, let's see if I have to do this. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Hi there. That is such a beautiful card, Shannon. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
So we are going to make this card today. The colors aren't as beautiful as Shannon's, but it's more of a neutral color, and I tried to use colors that were in the kit. I'll show you a card when we finish that uses some different pinks and reds. I just got an echo. Okay, I think it's gone now. So off your stencils. We are going to use all 4 stencils. I think Shannon used primarily the cactus stencils, but go ahead and clean those off. Primarily where the purple is, we're just going to do greens today. So it's really just the purple we want to get clean. If you don't have Ultra Clean, it's so great for stencils, especially when you have reds that you can't get off with other cleaners. I find that Hero Arts Ultra Clean is really good for that. And this is just regular Ultra Clean that I've put into a Dauber top bottle. I usually find more control that way. Hi, Dee. Hi, Roberta. Oh, baby powder works in a pinch. Yeah, for the embossing challenges. That's a good idea. I don't have any baby powder, but I have one of those bags that Shannon has, and it's lasted me, I think, the 4 years since I've been crafting. So a little goes a long way. So for this card, I'm going to give you just a few minutes or seconds to wipe off the other colors you use, but I'm going to start with a sheet of paper that is 6.5 inches square. And that's really because I want to take advantage of these registration marks that are at the corners of the stencil. That'll really help us line up each of the layers with the next layer. And then I'm also making sure that I've got my stencils kind of in order, and at the bottom of each, you'll see the product number as well as A, B, C, and D. And so I've got them in the right order, but for this card, let me pull it over again, I'm actually going to use them in reverse. So you'll see that you can use the stencil in the way in its natural orientation or intended orientation, or you can flip the stencil over and use it in reverse. And I'll show you later how we're going to die cut this out. So Shannon mentioned that if she were going to go in reverse, she would die cut first. But I think for this one, because I'm really only die cutting this one edge, I'm going to die cut after, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and reverse all of my stencils. So this is A, and this is B, C, and D. So now they're all backwards. And I'm going to start with this background with A. And I just like to use a little bit of paper tape. So this is just Post-it tape, and you can get it in different sizes and different widths. But I go ahead and get this Big Mama one, and then I can cut up the pieces as I like. I'm just going to keep that down. And so the first colors I'm going to start with, actually not the pale tomato, but I'm going to start with sand and then pine. Okay. So I'm going to do sand. Actually, I'm going to go, let's see, which hand will I use here? Start with the sand. And I've got my blending brush. And I'm just going to blend sand over this top, over the buttes, and a little bit down into this middle area. And then I'm going to blend pine upwards and kind of meet the sand. I'm not going to blend them too much together, just enough so that they meet each other. Get a little kitty fur off my paper. There's always a kitty contribution. Okay. So I'm going to just go in from the top and blend that sand in. And I'm not going too dark, just pretty lightly. It'll smooth out over a little bit of time. I'm starting with my brush on this stencil area that I think kind of smooths out the ink that's on my brush, and then I'm not going too heavy into the first spot that I make contact with the paper. Okay, so I think that is going to be enough of the sand. Again, it's pretty light. And next I'll go in with pine. I'm going to switch brushes to a green brush. I'm going to go in from the bottom. Actually, let me grab a piece of scrap paper. And I won't get any on my mat here. So I'm going to go in from the bottom. And for this one, I'll build up the color a little bit. I went in sort of light to begin with. Roberta, I hope we get to see the cards that your husband makes. I'm just adding more color. I'll just keep building that up. So at this point, I've really just kind of met where the sand is. I'm not trying to blend them together too much, but I do just want to have a little bit of a transition. With darker colors, I always like to start first. I think Roberta had a good point earlier. A couple of folks were talking about the additional control that a brush gives, especially when you're working with a dark ink. You can really start out sort of light and take your time building up the color. Okay, so I've got that nice and deep at the bottom, and then I'm going to go back in with the sand and just kind of blend a little bit where those two meet, but I'm not too worried about how well they blend together. Brown and green are just going to be brown and green. Okay, there's that. And I might just deep it up in colors a little bit here. So that is our first layer. Oh, actually, I need to do the registration marks. So let me do that. I'm going to do this with a dark color. So these are just the 4 little cutouts in the corners of the stencils. And you don't have to do this, but it's a nice feature that Hero adds to their stencils and their layering stencils that just helps make it easier to line up the next layer. But this stencil is not too complex, so it would be easy to eyeball it. Okay, so that's the first layer done. And now I'm going to come in with layer B. And again, I'm flipping it over, and then I'm going to match up those registration marks in the corners. And now I'm going to switch out my pine. I'm done with the pine, or I keep saying pine, sand. And I'm going to bring in a pale tomato. And I'm just going to add some red to these buttes. I love the geography, topography, I guess, in the Southwest. I lived in New Mexico for a little bit when I was a lot younger. And it's just so beautiful there. I obviously have a better appreciation for it now that I'm older, but it is really something to see if you haven't been. I'm not worried about, there's clouds here in the stencil. I'm not worried about those. I didn't mask them off. Those are going to be die cut away when we're done stenciling. Okay. So I've got these buttes in, and there's really kind of a clear line, but I wanted to transition the colors just a little bit. So I'm going to go just slightly into the green area, but I'm going to go a little lighter. So I went pretty saturated up in the buttes, but now I'm just going a little bit lighter here in the middle where these kind of hilly waves are. And then I'm also going to go back in with the pine and just kind of emphasize those open areas with green. So when we lift this away, we should see a little bit more texture on the green. It's kind of a tone on tone look. There we go. Okay. So what's nice about the registration marks is if I lift this away and I want to do something else, it's really easy just to line it back up. But I think we're going to be okay. There we go. So that's looking good. And now we're going to bring in layer C. So layer C is the one with the open cacti. And I'm going to flip it over again and use the registration marks. I want to put my head directly over it without showing you all of my gray hairs. Okay. There we go. And for this first layer, I'm going to use a light green color. Oh, yeah, I did just stick my finger in that ink. So I'm going to use green apple. And actually, I'm done with this pale tomato, so I'm going to put that away as well. So for this layer, I'm going to use green apple. And I have another brush for that. And you could use your same dark green brush if you wanted and just get as much dark green off as you can. But for this one, I'm going to go in with this other blending brush. And then I'm just doing a solid layer. So nothing to be delicate about here. I'm just going in and looking for some good saturation. Yeah, Maddie. That's very true. What's a few gray hairs between friends? Okay. It's good to see you. I know Maddie's in the Bay Area, so she's been maybe having some unusual heat. Where I am in the Bay Area, we are not used to heat. I'm in a very specific microclimate, and so this week it was 90, which I know is not actually too hot, but when you don't have air conditioning, it can be really uncomfortable to sit in 85-degree temperatures in your house all day. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to go for the last layer, which is layer D. And then again, I'm going to flip it over and line up my registration marks. Paper tape. I'm using paper tape here. Sometimes I've used, excuse me, washi, but I feel like washi might resist ink a little bit, and so that sometimes I get a little bit of ink transfer. So that's why I like to use the paper tape, because you can see it's catching the colors and they're not mixing. Okay, for this last layer, I'm going to use Fresh Lawn. And I'm going to use that dark one, the brush that I used for the dark green earlier. Nice. Look how pretty that is. And again, nothing to be delicate about here either. Just going for some good saturation. Okay. Hi, Mindy. I hope things are going well in Wisconsin today. It gets hot in Wisconsin too. I grew up in the Midwest, in just north of Chicago, so I know that Midwest heat and humidity as well. All right, so that's the last of the stenciling. And so now we've finished our image here. Okay. So for this, the first thing I'm going to do is just trim it down. And so I trimmed down to 4 inches wide. I basically, for an A2, it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So essentially, I've given myself an 1/8 inch margin around the seam when I add it to a card base. So, oh, good. It's cool there. I'm so glad. Okay, so I'm just going to start by cutting along this line, and then I'll measure. It's like such a fierce slicing sound. Okay. And I'm going to go to, it actually doesn't matter where I cut off at the top. I'm going to use the die cut, but just for, I don't know, maybe I just needed to slice one more time. So this is about, let's see, this is about still an 1/8 of an inch. It's 4 and 1/8, but I'm going to trim a little bit more. And obviously I still have some margin here, but I'm going to trim it down to 4 inches. And then I'll just flip it over. Okay. There we go. So now we have nice clean edges on the sides and the bottom. Now we are going to die cut this out. So because I reversed the stencil, I need to use the coordinating die and cut it from the back, right? Because the blades are up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the whole thing over, and then I am going to use the flashlight on my phone. I'm trying not to shine it into your eyes here. Let's get that set up. So use the flashlight on the phone, and now I can see my image, and I just need to line up. Well, I guess you gotta hold it up, and then use some paper tape to hold it down, or some low tack tape. So let me get that tape, and I'm gonna line up along the little ridge or the little valley here. And I'm just gonna scooch around, see that it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna tape it down in 2 spots. Just to anchor it, and then I'll just double check it again. Looks good. And turn off my flashlight so I don't kill my camera battery. And I'm going to go ahead and run this through my big die cut machine. We're on the side here. I do, Maddie, I do like my Fiskars guillotine. It is the first paper trimmer that I bought when I started crafting or making cards in, I think it was 2017. And I bought it because it was maybe $8 on sale at one of my local craft stores. This is before I knew that I could buy craft supplies online. There was a time where I drove to Michael's Michael's or Joann's is what we have here, like every weekend to see what was new. So there's my scene. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just create the sky. So I'm starting with a piece of, oh gosh, what color is this one? I think this is Arctic. Is it Arctic? Yes, it's Arctic. This is the lightest blue. And I'm not going to trim it down yet. I'll tell you why in a second, but let me grab my scrap paper again. And I'm just going to add a little bit of aquatic ink up at the top. So this is my favorite thing to do for just a very quick and easy sky that has a little bit of depth, is to bring in some aquatic ink and just create a little bit of a deeper blue at the top of the panel. And aquatic is my favorite color to do that. Aquatic and Arctic is my favorite combo for that. So I'm just gonna go in really lightly. And I'm really not using much pressure at all. So I'm just kind of going for a smooth look. I'm gonna tap off on my scrap paper and kind of deepen a little bit more. It's pretty subtle, but I think it adds some nice dimension to a very simple card like this. Yes, the discovery of the online shops was quite an exciting thing for me. I still remember the first time I was on the Hero Arts website and looked down in the footer. I mean, I've known of Hero Arts for decades. I actually found a bottle of glitter, Hero Arts glitter, that is from the late 80s, if you can imagine. I don't know how it managed to make multiple moves with me, but it did. And Hero happens to be just about 10 miles away from me. I was so excited. I had no idea they were local. Okay. So this is a very simple blending. really easy to do. Just try to keep light-handed, and you could hold the brush down at the bottom. If you're heavy-handed, I'm typically a heavy-handed blender as well. But so there's this, and the reason why I waited to trim it is because often you get. Let me bring this white sheet back. Often when blending, you get that kind of darker. It's hard to see, but there's a little bit of a darker edge where the ink or the brush was catching, and so that's why I like to wait. And even if I'm not going to trim and create a margin, I do like to just trim off a sliver just to clean up those edges. So again, I was going down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm just going to take 1/8 inch off each side. And then let's see what my seam looks like. I wanted to leave some of that light blue visible, so I think I am going to trim more off the top than off the bottom. So I'm going to take the full 1/4 inch off of the top here. Okay, so now we have our sky and our mountains. And take a look. Trimmed those pretty well. I think I need to take just a little bit more off of my blue panel. Oops. Oh, you're in Pinole. Yeah, that's right up the highway from me. Okay. So there is that. And then next I'm going to stamp the sentiment before I adhere these together. So let me get these out of the way. And I'm just putting these both together down in the corner of my Misty. And this is just for sentiment placement so I can see where I want it. And I'm going to use the Miss You, I Miss You sentiment. Yeah, the Aquatic ink is, I think it's the blue that I use the most, the deep blue that I use the most, because you can get it really light and you can also get it really deep and vibrant. And I'm just going to place this, and I'm going to tilt this up just so I can see it, see if it's aligned or straight, and I think it is. Actually, I think it's not. There we go. I always overthink at this step. Is it straight? Is it not straight? Should I have gone with my gut the first time or not? But in the end, it's okay. Just paper and ink. So I'm using here Onyx Pigment ink from Hero Arts. I like to use a pigment ink for sentiment stamping. Always just, it just seems very crisp to me. I couldn't really see if I, this black on black, I couldn't see if I inked it up. There we go. And there it is. So juicy. Okay. So now I've got, really, we're almost done. I've got my card front. I'm going to use foam tape to adhere this card front to the card, or to the background. Where's my foam tape? I'm set that aside because that ink, the pigment ink, will take a little bit to dry. So I need to give a little bit of time. And I'm just going to go around the edges here. Let's see, I wonder where my little scissors went. There. And then I'll go up just behind some of these buttes. And then here down at the bottom. I'm going to trim, just go up in half along this foam tape. I need to use my adhesive eraser on these scissors. These are nonstick scissors, but sometimes they get some buildup. And if you have an adhesive eraser, it's a great way to clean off your scissors if you're careful. Okay. So my tip for adhering with foam tape onto a background is not to expose all of the foam tape. So no one's ever going to know if you have removed the release paper on these other pieces, right? You just need to release enough to get a good stick for the first pass. And so here I'm just going to expose this corner, and I'm going to expose I think just this top corner, and I'm folding it down and kind of scoring it at diagonal with my finger so that when I turn it over, these pieces of foam tape are sticking out and I can kind of pull the tab away. So the sticky corner is my bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to pull it down a little bit closer to me so I can see better. And then I'm going to use pressure to just anchor these places that are still protected so that I have a little wiggle room, right? And so I can anchor in my right corner here. I'm not pushing down yet on this exposed sticky part. And when I feel good about the placement, I'm going to go ahead and push down on the bottom left-hand corner, which is sticky. And then I'm going to push at the right top, which is sticky as well. And so now that I feel good about this alignment, I can use these little tabs and pull away those main pieces of foam tape around the edges. This is because when I used to expose all of remove all of the release paper, and then I'd put it down and it would always be crooked. So that's a tip that I learned, I think, from Julie Ebersol on YouTube. And so there we go. So there's our card front. And then the last thing we need to do is to glue it to a card base. And I like the Hero Arts. This is just Hero Arts Dove White. And it's an A2 card base, and so that leaves a nice white frame, which kind of, for me, when I look at it, it kind of helps tie in the white in the hills and then the white of the die cutting. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that because we die cut it reversed, you can feel a little bit of a lip that comes up, right? Normally when we die cut, you would die cut, or that edge, you wouldn't feel a rough edge. You can use a bone folder to smooth that down if you want, but I've already adhered it to the background, so it's going to be difficult to do. You can't really see it, but if you're someone who's going to feel it and it's going to bother you, you can always use a bone folder. So I'm just going to add foam tape, glue to my card base. I like to use glue here because it'll give me some wiggle room. Not too much glue. And then I'll go in. You know what I did? I think I was thinking that I forgot about the margin. So I'm going to scrap this one. Forget what I just said. I was thinking that I was adhering in a full A2 size card. So in this case, I'm going to put the glue on the back of my panel. I got the glue a little too close to the edge on that other piece that I just set aside. So it was going to be coming through in the margin. So I'm going to go back on the panel. The glue is there, and then we're just going to eyeball it here. And then again, I do have some wiggle room, or wiggle time, I guess. So I can scooch it around and get a nice margin. So there we have it. Super quick, super easy. I think it would be pretty easy to mass produce these if you wanted to. And this is a top folding card. I like these because it's kind of a little easel. It's nice for folks, whoever receives it, and they can display. So this is it for this card. I did want to show the other card that I made with this card if you wanted some more ideas for colors. So this is using peony, cotton candy, and pale tomato, and just some other greens, some more yellow greens or olivey greens. But I also really liked this look. And in this one, I've combined two sets of buttes, one that are in the intended orientation, and then I did a reverse butte like I did for this one. And I used kind of darker colors because it's a little bit in the background. So the colors are slightly different and a little bit deeper. And then I just layered the two together for a more kind of filled in scene for this one. So that's peony, cotton candy, and pale tomato for that one. All right. So if you haven't, leave a quick comment. I know that we're going to pick some winners here. So let me switch over to see if I can check the chat. Okay, so Shannon is picking winners for us. We're going to have one winner from the Facebook channel and one winner from YouTube. So it looks like over on Facebook, Lori A. Lennon, Lehnen, is our winner over on Facebook. And on YouTube, it's Neva. Congratulations to you both. To claim your prize, which is the cards that we made today, please email info@heroarts.com. info@heroarts.com. And don't forget, if you make a card with this kit, this is the August kit, upload your card to the Hero Arts Kit Fanatics group on Facebook by October 7th, which is a Friday. And then a random winner will be chosen to receive a gift card to the Hero Arts store. Our winner for the July kit will be announced later tonight. And then I wanted to share September's kit. So because I live next to Hero or close to Hero, I get to go over there once in a while. And I am still, even though I'm on the team, I'm still a subscriber because I like to have my own little unboxing here, or just have that experience myself. I've been a subscriber since I want to say mid 2017. And so this is the September kit, and this is the kit that we'll be playing with on in our next make along, which is October 9th, a Sunday again at 12 Pacific. And this is fun. So I don't know how long or if Hero has ever done rub-ons. I don't think so, but this month's kit, September, includes rub-ons. So with every kit, you get this great storage pouch that I use a lot. And oh my gosh, I haven't seen it all packaged up like this yet, but this is really, really beautiful. So there's a 4x6 stamp set that has this beautiful floral arrangement. Libby shared a link later, but if you haven't seen the inspiration cards for these, Shannon turned this vase into a pumpkin. So she trimmed off the bottom, and that was so, so, so clever. I never would have thought of that. Shannon's a genius. So there's that. There's some really beautiful thin twine, and this is metallic. It's kind of a metallic champagne-y kind of color. It's really beautiful. There are coordinating dies for the stamp set, and this coordinating die will also cut out the images in the rub-on. So you get two vases with all sorts of little additional pieces. Some of these additional images are coordinating with what's in the stamp set, and then some are just extra. So the dies are really intended to be used with the stamp set, but they will align with the main images here in the rub-ons. And the rub-ons you just want to use over white paper or any other paper. You don't need to use it, or you wouldn't necessarily use it with the stamped image. It's kind of just a bonus thing to make some really quick and easy cards. And then this is the beautiful background stamp. It's so pretty. I'm trying to think which way. It might be the same up or down, but this is a really beautiful cling stamp. And then we have some ivory cardstock. And then this looks to be like some of the sand cardstock. This is a kind of craft texture, I guess, cardstock. Very smooth, but it's got, you can see the fibers in it. And then, of course, the backer. I love these little backers. I've seen some folks make cards out of these backers as well. So that is the September kit. Thank you for Libby for posting the link in there. And I think we are finished for today. So the replay of today's live will be available on YouTube and Facebook. And don't forget, again, if you've made a card with us today, be sure to post it in the Hero Arts Kit Fanatics group on Facebook for a chance to win a gift card. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a really great day, and I hope you'll join us again next month. It was fun spending some time with you today.